So, my wife came out as gay after 16 years of marriage and one child. She dropped the bomb about 3 months before she moved out of the house to move in with her lover of over 2 years. Our son chose to stay behind with me and still regularly talks to his mom. While consulting with my attorney about the pending divorce, he suggested filing a civil lawsuit against my ex's lover for being the cause of the marriage breakup. I followed his advice, and they were served with the papers. The following day, my ex and her lover confront me in front of our house, and it leads to a shouting match and my wife leaving in tears. Our son is indifferent about the suit, but deep down, I know he feels some resentment towards us both. I know it will be a long shot, but the suit to me is more symbolic. My way of extracting my pound of meat for 16 years of blood, sweat, and tears. It's my way of moving on, and even if nothing comes out of it, I will feel vindicated in some small way. Everyone sucks here. You. This is 100% out of spite and nasty. She's not coming back, and you are going to hurt everyone. Her, for carrying on a 2-year affair. Never okay. Your wife is gay and would have left anyways for another woman eventually. She's at fault. The other woman or man that comes between a relationship should never be faulted this much in comparison to the person that owes you their respect and loyalty. They're still going to be together, and she's still going to be gay. You're in the wrong here, and are being childish. A messy, petty divorce is not something your child should see, and they're probably already confused and hurt as it is. Don't make it worse by doing this. Also, you should be embarrassed for trying to sue the woman your wife was ducking while she was with you. Everyone sucks here. Her for having an affair, obviously. When she realized she was gay, she should have ended the marriage before carrying on an affair. You, however, you're doing this out of spite. You're willing to hurt your child's mother because your feelings were hurt. She's gay. She would have realized it and left you eventually. You need to move on with your life and quit the petty crap. That's just going to drag the hurt out even longer. Not the a-hole. I'm assuming you would have filed this suit regardless of what gender your wife's lover was. The entire notion of not being discriminatory is that everyone should be treated the same. I would say you're in the clear here. If you're only filing the suit because she came out as gay, then you would be an a-hole. Not the a-hole. She shouldn't have participated in an affair if she didn't want consequences. My ex and I divorced 12 years ago. We had 2 kids together, who were 11 and 9 at the time. The then 11-year-old wanted to live with me, and while he saw his dad, he really only wanted to spend weekends and holidays, which my ex supported. The then 9-year-old originally had the same arrangement, but eventually asked to live with her dad. After lots of talking, we agreed, and my daughter would originally see me 3 days a week and on holidays. Then, my ex met his new wife. Together, they pretty much alienated my daughter from me. They bought her expensive trips and presents I couldn't afford, bringing our son too, also lavishing him, while also trash-talking me. By 14, my daughter refused to see me. I fought for her and begged that we go to therapy, talk it out, but her mind was made up, and the judge basically said that she was old enough to choose who to live with. I'd see her on the occasional holiday after that when her brother talked her into it, but we haven't spoken in 3 years. It hurt, a lot. I tried reaching out when she was 18, hoping maybe it would do some good, and she told me to screw off. I ended up in therapy, alone for this, and dealt with the trauma of basically losing a child to parental alienation. I eventually came to realize that I would never again trust my ex, who stopped talking to me, his wife, or my daughter. Fast forward to now. My son is now 23 and doing well for himself. My daughter is 21 and recently reached out. She said that she was sorry, that she loved me, and that she wanted a relationship. I dug deeper and found out my ex and his wife had cut her off for dropping out of college, and really what she needed was financial support. But she kept reiterating that she wanted to be close again. I told her no. I said I loved her and always will, but she hurt me deeply, and I don't think I can ever trust her again. She started crying, and I told her I could send her job listings in low-cost apartments. I also told her if she's genuinely interested in reconnecting, reach out once she's found her footing. She hung up. My son says I should have taken her in and has accused me of being a bad mom. I'm really conflicted on if I'm being a jerk here. Edit. Many have asked how I know she's just after money or if I just invented that. She told me that she wanted money and a place to stay. At first, she was saying, "I love you, I'm sorry," and I was buying it. And then she mentioned moving back in and me lending her money. I asked why, and she told me why. I asked, if your dad hadn't kicked you out, would you have called me? She was quiet, and that gave me my answer. Also, no, I had no creepy husband at the time to drive her away. I only started dating again a couple years ago. Not the a-hole. You went to therapy for 7 years over the loss of your daughter, who wanted nothing to do with you. She's only reaching out for money and financial support. Protect yourself. Also, talk to your therapist about this situation. Get her feedback. Also, your ex and his wife are a-holes. Everyone sucks here except the kids. Your ex and his wife alienated a child and turned her against you, and you're now punishing her for it. While you might think the timing is suspect, 21 is a pretty normal age to come to realizations about your parents. Example, realizing that all the terrible stuff your dad told you about your mom probably isn't true, and trying to reconcile that relationship. Plus, global pandemic, dropping out of college, being cut off from dad. These are all tumultuous things that have probably made her reflect on her life and the situation she finds herself in. Again, leading to the realization outlined above. Don't blame your daughter for being brainwashed by her father. You absolutely don't need to provide any financial support, but putting stipulations on your relationship with her is probably reaffirming some of the lies that were put to her growing up. Now your son thinks you're a bad mom. Is that really how you want both of your kids to see you? Wouldn't you rather try to build a relationship with them both? Not the a-hole. If she truly cares about you, she'll work on a relationship without asking for money. You can tell her you're willing to meet as long as she asks for nothing. I, 31 female, went no contact with my dad, 57 male, 3 years ago. In short, my childhood was not great. Because my mom has always been out of the picture, my dad had to raise me alone, but didn't have the parental skills to do so. I won't go into too much detail, but I've spent my entire childhood being mostly ignored by him while he was living his own life. The attention I did get was mostly in the form of verbal aggression, when I stepped too far out of line for him to ignore me, or when I got in the way of something he wanted to do. He's had a stream of dysfunctional relationships with women, 7 of whom lived with us at some point, and who have all traumatized me in different ways. I don't have a single memory of my dad comforting me or taking an honest interest in my life. My paternal grandmother, 87 female, has been everything to me that my dad is not. She is the one who showed up to every school play, who's taken me in for weeks at a time when living with my dad was just too difficult, who regularly calls to ask about my life, and who just generally cares about me. If not for her, I'm not sure I would be the semi-functional grown-up that I am today. She is everything to me. My dad has made a big fuss to me and the rest of the family, including my grandmother, about me going no contact and paints me as the heartless daughter who has shunned her poor father, who did his best despite being a single parent. He texts me once in a while wanting to reconnect, but I reject him every time. His messages are never loving nor apologetic, but rather have an air of, "Are you finally done being unreasonable? If so, I'm graciously willing to forgive you." While the situation hasn't affected how often I see my grandmother, it has devastated her. I would have expected her to respect my decision, since she's seen what my dad has put me through. But she continues to pressure me to forgive him and move on because that's what family does. She simply will not accept that I'm not just throwing a hissy fit that she can help me snap out of. 10 days ago, my grandmother fell severely ill and was admitted to the hospital. She's stable now, but for 6 days, none of us knew if she would make it or not. During this time, the pressure from my dad and grandmother intensified. My grandmother literally begged me in tears to talk to my dad, while he texted me several times that I should be ashamed for remaining stubborn at a time like this and putting my sick grandmother through additional stress. I have refused to budge, even though I know that I am causing her great pain and that she won't be here forever, and now I feel like a horrible person. A few other family members have begun adding to the pressure as well. My boyfriend is on my side, but it feels like he is the only one, and I don't know what to do at this point. I need to know if I'm an a-hole in need of a reality check. Not the a-hole. They are trying to use her condition to manipulate you, and that isn't right. Though your grandma sounds old school, and she probably really does believe you should forgive your dad and have a relationship with him. You can always pretend to, and then go right back to no contact when she either recovers or passes away. Not the a-hole, but your grandma and dad are. Your grandmother enables your dad's crappy parenting. She's okay with him treating you like trash when it doesn't appease him. She may have been there for your childhood, but she doesn't have your back now. She knows how he treats you, but still wants you to apologize to him. Where's his or her apology for letting this go on? You're not obligated to forgive or apologize to your aggressor. Not the a-hole. Do not let the toxic a-hole back into your life. They are using her condition to manipulate you. Don't fall for it. Just be gentle and firm with her. Reiterate your position, then change the subject when she brings it up. Let them know, nicely, that it's not up for debate and it's not negotiable. During my wife's family reunion, I noticed that her cousin would make verbal jabs about my wife's work and our parenting. It started off subtle with comments to my wife like, "I know you work remotely, but that's not really a good career path vertically." To, "You have a college degree. Why aren't you more ambitious? I would be." I mentioned the comments to my wife and she noticed them too, but said to ignore her since she just broke up with her long-term boyfriend and was acting out. She said this was a pattern of her cousin's. I did as she asked, but I drew the line when the cousin began criticizing our parenting, such as our kids' diets. No judgment. Cousins all organic foods and plant-based diets. And how we discipline our children. We do timeouts while she's an advocate of spanking. She comments, "If they were my kids," to finally, "I don't even know why you have children. You don't deserve them." After this, I spoke to her in private and said her opinions regarding our kids were unwelcome, and as she was not a parent and did not have close relationships with our kids, she had no clue what she was talking about. I also told her she was acting jealously towards my wife and that it was obvious to her family. My wife's career choices are none of her business, and it seemed she resented the work-life balance my wife had achieved. The cousin teared up, didn't say anything, and ran to her room. For the rest of the reunion, she didn't join activities or shared meals. Word spread, and most of the in-laws thanked me for defending my wife, especially my mother-in-law and father-in-law. My wife scolded me, but was grateful since it would have led to a shouting match between them. However, my wife's aunt, cousin's mom, said I was an a-hole, as her daughter was going through a rough time and it was haunting her to see her cousin doing so well when she was still unmarried and had no kids. I replied that I didn't say anything until she brought up our kids, and that her jealousy didn't excuse poor behavior. The aunt said I should be ashamed for kicking someone when they were down, depressed, and suffering. I felt bad since I didn't know how badly she was mentally. Am I the a-hole for calling out cousin-in-law's jealousy when she was already down? Depression, even clinical depression, doesn't give you the right to be an unbridled a-hole to people with no consequences. She was cruel and said much that crossed the line. But saying you don't deserve your children is so far over the line she can't even see it anymore. She's lucky your response was so mild. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole at all. Cousin needed to hear it. I agree that it's a jealousy thing. She teared up when you said this to her because she knows it's true. Don't feel bad for calling her out. You and your wife have been feeling crummy this whole time she's been making these comments, and you've been nice. You drew a line in the sand to protect your family. Nothing wrong with that. Cousin's mom can guilt you by saying cousin is depressed all she wants. But if she wasn't in the headspace to deal with the fallout, she shouldn't have been dishing it out in the first place. So that argument is null. Cousin owes your wife and you an apology. Being depressed doesn't give you the right to be a jerk. For duck's sake, saying you don't deserve your kids? The aunt is out of her mind to think you did anything wrong here. Not the a-hole. You did the right thing standing up for your wife and kids. The cousin may be going through a rough time, but that doesn't excuse her behavior at all. There are much better ways to deal with emotions than lashing out like that. It's the birthday of my ex's fiancée next month, and she's planning a huge birthday vacation. She asked me if my son could go with them, and I told her no. In the beginning, she made it seem like she really wanted him to be there because she wanted to bond with her future stepson since the wedding is soon. However, it came out later she was only inviting him because my ex told her he couldn't go because he wanted to spend time with our son, as our son recently asked him directly if he didn't love him because he wasn't around a lot. The reason I said no is because my son has repeatedly told me she's mean. She's yelled at his nanny in front of him, making her cry, which really upset him. She has yelled at him when he asked her to play multiple times. She tried to force him to eat food he hated to the point he started crying, and my ex had to intervene and ask her what the hell she was doing, etc. I don't want my son in a foreign country with her, even if my ex and some of his family will be there too. At first, when I said no, she tried to convince me to change my mind. As that hasn't worked, she's now calling me names and saying I'm jealous of her relationship with my ex, which is why I want to ruin her birthday. She also said I want to ruin my ex's relationship with our son, which isn't true. My ex did ask me to reconsider too, but I told him no as well. At first, he got angry at me, but yesterday he told me he was sorry and just stressed. I'm not sure if he was being genuine though, or just changing tactics. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are doing absolutely the right thing. You are protecting your son. I hope your ex wakes up and sees her true colors before he makes the mistake of marrying her. Not the a-hole, OP. You have to protect your son against all odds. Don't be guilted into making a decision. If, as a fiancé, initially she's mean to your son, imagine later once she's married and holds more power. Her behavior will change. This issue is way past a birthday vacation, and I would sincerely be worried about son's well-being when he himself has complained about her. Not sure of how much your ex knows, though. Not the a-hole. If your ex was really interested in a better relationship with your son, he would end things with his fiancée. She's going to get worse after the wedding. Be vigilant.